So just a little quick message to the people making our bunny hopper skirts. The pattern didn't quite fit onto the fabric because the fabric wasn't very wide. So Diane has fixed the pattern, so she's added on a little piece onto each of the patterns. So what you receive will be a circle already cut with a little piece added on to it. So from there you can follow the next video, which shows the little pattern already attached, but Diane has done that for you. So all you're going to do is take the circle that you have and hem the edges. So the hems on the edges are always, for me, just a single fold with a zigzag stitch that goes over the edge of it. That's sufficient for these kind of dresses. They won't get a lot of wear and tear, and the zigzag just helps to keep all the little threads in check. So yes, that's the first thing that you're going to do. Take your circles and hem all your edges all the way around. You're only going to fold over about a centimetre, maybe even a little bit less, whatever's easy for you. Okay? So I'm quite conscious while I am putting out these patterns that some people making these costumes might have a lot more sewing experience than I do, or might have different skills that they can lend to making these costumes. By all means, I'd be quite happy to hear from you. Otherwise, if you want to change the pattern in any way that makes it easier for you, please go for it. If you have an overlocker, that's handy for doing things like the jackets and things. So if you have other skills that you want to bring to the table, absolutely, by all means, go and do that. In the carnival world, it's all about things with not a long shelf life. They're not going to be washed and worn for a very long time. So everything is made in a really simplified way. So simple sewing and things like that. So I hope it doesn't bend your brain too much if you've got a lot of skills and you see these very simplified patterns. So if you have anything that you want to feed back, please do. Otherwise, feel free to use your skills in whatever way you see fit. Here we have the template for the Jailhouse Rockers. So this is just a jacket template. Their costume is more or less just a jacket and then a foam headpiece to look like kind of the coiffed hair from the 50s. So we're going to do these in a few different colours. It's written on the template there: red, turquoise, royal, purple and yellow. So I've got the yellow. I think this fabric should match what I've ordered. I've bought the yellow here in Ireland, so hopefully it'll be quite similar. So I made the template a little bit shorter than the fabric. So what I would like you to do is check out your fabric when you get it and check the template against it. And if you can run all the way to the end of the fabric, do that, because if the jackets are longer, that's probably a little bit better, because these were typically long jackets. By my calculations, you should fit a jacket. So this fabric is folded over, so you can see there it's two pieces. That's the way it comes because it's quite long. You should fit the front and the back of the jacket there. And then this is your sleeve, so you should fit the sleeve, two sleeves in as well. By my calculations, that fits inside a metre of fabric. So you should have actually quite a lot of fabric left over, because I think you've got 10 metres of every colour. So that's the beginning of the pattern for that. So you would just cut out your pattern and I'll show you how to put that together. So I have just laid down the back of the jacket. You'll see that I've left a little bit of extra outside the size of the template. So you can cut your fabric a little bit bigger than what the template is. That is totally fine. In fact, it's better. And then I've left this run to the end. So I'm going to cut out two backs at the same time, because the back and the front are two different templates. So then I'll have the back cut for the next one that I'm going to do after this. So that's something that you can do. Otherwise, if you want to cut them separately, that is totally fine as well, if that keeps you better on track. So there's the first part of the pattern cut out. So you can see I drew around the pattern and then I cut bigger than what that pattern is, so then we can match the lines when we're sewing them. Okay. So there is the shoulders sewn across here and on this side here. A bit hard to see because I used the matching threads. What I also did then is I just put one single hem all down the sides and the neck, so all the way to the bottom. So I just did that while I was at it. Now You can double fold this if you like. I don't think it's necessary really. So I think a single fold. This fabric is a drill fabric, so it doesn't really fray really easily, so it's a pretty good one for just leaving that edge raw. So we can just do a single fold and a sew, which is a lot easier. Next we're going to do we're going to add the shoulders on, the arms rather, onto the shoulders. So here's your arm piece folded over. So you would fold this over to find your center point, and you would mark your center point. So I've marked the center point there, and that center point would be matched with the center of the top of your arm, which would be exactly where your shoulders meet. Okay, so your center point will go right in there, and if you pin that in place, you can pin your arm all the way down your armhole. Now if you want to put the pins in, great. If not, it's pretty easy just to start here with one pin and just pull these together as you're sewing them all the way down, and you would finish them when your armhole is complete at the bottom. Then you would flip it around and you would do the same down the other side of your armhole until you get to the bottom. And once that is sewn on, you'll have like an open arm. Then you would go from your underarm and sew out to your cuff, and go from your underarm and sew your two pieces of your jacket together. So once they match up there, and sew them down the end of your jacket. So it'd be sewing your arm out and sewing your sides of your jacket down. So there's my first arm attached onto the jacket. So just single line sew down one side, and then you flip it over and you go from the top down again. Then you match your two underarms, and you just take a straight line out all the way to the end of your cuff. Now it's no problem if your cuffs are not matching by the time you get to the end, just like mine is here. It just means that the fabric has gone a bit wonky along the way. We're actually going to be attaching a cuff on top of this anyway, so that doesn't matter. So if you want, you can trim that off, or wait till you're finished and match your two arms together, make sure they're both the same length. So that's what you would do, your shoulders first, and then get your arms onto the armholes on both sides. And then when you're complete with that, you're going to go from here down the sides of your jacket all the way to the bottom. And again, if you somehow end up with your jacket off, like one end is longer than the other, again, no problem, we'll fix that at the end. So this is the next part of doing our jailhouse jackets. What I've done here is laying out some of the templates that we're going to use to make the velvet edges. These jackets typically had velvet collars and cuffs, and then little pocket, I don't know if they were actually pockets or just pretend pockets, but we're just going to use, just to give these a bit of kind of carnival, we're going to give them these little templates will be made from foam. So you're going to use the foam, cut around the template, and then we're going to cover that with black crushed velvet. So I'm just showing you how these are laid out here. So these are just the cardboard templates that you'll use. I'm not sure what this is, but it's on every jacket online when I see the pictures. And then this is the little jacket pocket top. Then we also have the cuffs. So the cuffs, again, will just go all the way around when it's cut from foam. So for the cuffs, I'm going to make the template a little bit bigger than what I think you'll need, just in case you make your template or make your jacket a little bit bigger than mine, so that you have enough there, and then you can trim it off if you need to. So I'm going to make those in foam, and I'm going to cover them in the crushed velvet. Now I don't have black crushed velvet here, so I'm going to use white, but you'll be using black on all the jackets that you're making. So I'm going to show you that now once I get those cut out in foam. So we're going to use black foam for behind our black pieces, just in case any edges are seen, it'll still be black. So this is a scrap of black foam that I have here. So all you're going to do is lay your template down. Now because it's black, it's harder to see the lines that you put down. But the thing with foam is that you can score it. So if you use something with a good tip on it, so this could be a ballpoint pen, or it could be just a colouring pencil like I'm using, and you just push that down pretty well. Now I don't know if the video is going to pick up on this. Obviously if you have chalk you could use that too, but this is just the way that we would do that. So I'm not sure if that's going to come up on the video, but you should be able to see like a little score line across here. So that's kind of the easiest way to do that. And because you have thin foam for this, you can just use the scissors. There's no need to use a blade. However, if you do want to use a blade, that is totally fine as well. Just gonna cut that out. So I've just gone with the simple shape first, which is the little square on the pocket. So the same thing would be for all your templates. And obviously, if you're cutting the pockets, you should do all the pockets at the same time, because they're square, or rectangle rather, and straight lines. You could fit them all in really easily beside each other. And then when it comes to doing things that are curved, you're just going to have to try and find ways for them to sit next to each other in a really nice way, so that you're not wasting foam and cutting out loads of pieces. So cut out all your pieces, and then we're going to cover those with the crushed velvet, which is really simple. You're just going to lay the fabric down, give it a little glue on the edges, flip it over, and then fold your edges over, and then we're just going to stick those with glue gun onto our jackets. So here's just that little pocket square ready to glue. So I have just roughly cut half an inch or 3/4 of an inch bigger than the little piece that I'm going to use. That's just because I want to fold that over behind. So what you're going to need is your glue gun hot and ready to go, your little piece, and then your crushed velvet. Now your crushed velvet will be black, not white like mine. So you also need a little piece of foam just to help you dab down those corners. If you're not used to using the glue gun, your hands aren't able to kind of deal with it, then this is the best way to do it. You can also use the back of a pencil just to like dab down, but I actually think this is a little bit easier. So all you're going to do is glue along the edge, so, and spreading that out really well. You don't really need to do anything other than the edges, and then just fold that little bit over and then use that to dab down. The crushed velvet, if you don't spread out your glue really well, the crushed velvet will allow the glue to come through, which is why you need something other than your fingers to dab this down. So if you do the opposites first for the square or the rectangle, that's kind of the best way to do that. So just spreading that glue out really well, and then moving fairly quickly to get that folded over. It's a little bit fiddly, but we'll get there. So if you like, you can cut off these little corners if they're in the way of you folding over. So then it's like you're wrapping a little present. You're just going to push that down and fold these edges over. These are the ones that are a bit harder. So if you want to get the middle bit first, that's another way to kind of overcome that and do your edges afterwards. My hands are well used to the glue gun at this stage, so I don't need anything to dab anything down. So then you're left with these little corners, and just fold them in whatever way they'll go, really. You can cut off a little bit of the excess of that if you like. It's not crazy important because we're going to be gluing this down onto the jacket anyway. So if you want to take a little bit off, that's fine, and then just get your glue gun in there. Just little dabs. The less glue you use when you're doing these kind of projects, obviously the less chance of burning yourself, really. Just dab that down, and you can wait for that to dry and then move on to your other corners. So that is basically it. Once you've got those nicely covered, you just have a nice kind of shiny piece to add to your jacket, and then you're just going to put a line of glue on that and stick that down onto the jacket in a really simple way. So yeah, so that's basically our little add-ons on our jacket. So here's my little foam piece that is now covered in the crushed velvet. What I've done on these jackets, or on the templated first jacket, is put just a little line so that you can roughly guide where you put these little pieces down. That's like a little line for the lapels, and then this little line here for the decorative piece, the little curvy bit that goes at the top, and likewise for the cuff, because it's not straight, so it's a little kind of triangular, curved triangular shape. so you don't go wrong with that as well. So yes, you can run off that to see how to stick them down, and then you're literally just going to take your glue gun and glue them down, making sure to spread out the glue well while you're gluing down. Now I can't glue this one down because it's the wrong color, but I'll leave that to you. Just be careful with your glue gun, mind your fingers, and yeah, enjoy. So hi guys, the next part of our make for our Jailhouse Rockers is our Jailhouse Rockers hair. So we're going to make this out of foam, and the foam that you get will be shiny on one side and matte on the other. So we're going to work with the shiny side out because it just looks nicer. It's also blacker, the other way around is quite grey. So this is our Jailhouse Rocker hair. So this little piece is added together, but yours will be all one piece. And then you'll have little bits to add to the front for the quiff. Okay, so you'll also receive a mannequin head so that you can work on these, adding these little front pieces on. So your mannequin head, they're quite light, so you should be able to work on it as it is, but if not, just tape the bottom of your mannequin head to like a Pyrex bowl or something that's quite heavy if you want it to stay in place a lot better. Also, after you have stuck the backs of these, make sure they're not sliding around on your mannequin head, because if it doesn't fit your mannequin head, it's not really going to fit the kid that's wearing it. Now, to a degree, we'll be able to change the sizes of them afterwards. We'll be able to add in a little bit of foam if they're too big, but I guess if it's sliding around on this, then that's not really going to be it's just going to be too big basically. So you'll receive a template, and you'll receive your mannequin head and your shiny foam. So the foam is 6mm foam, so it means that you can cut it with a scissors. If you are wanting to use a blade, that's completely fine. Sometimes it's a bit easier on the hands if you're doing a lot of cutting. It's better to use a blade. Make sure if you are using a blade that you have something to protect your table, either a sheet of wood or a little cutting mat. And yeah, so just enjoy. I'm going to show you how to put it all together. So we're just sticking on our little strips onto the forehead. You can see just right in the middle there, onto the forehead. So what I've done is I have beveled off a little bit of the edges of this foam, only because this shiny stuff doesn't really like to be glued, so you want to make sure that that is glued well down. So you can see there, that's shiny. Let's try and get this camera to focus. Focusing on the wrong thing, of course. Yeah, so there's your shiny and your little kind of matte side. So that's the way this foam will come, shiny and matte. So if we just bevel off a little bit of that edges, it sticks on a whole lot better, and you just pop it on. Just a very small amount of glue to stick these for many different reasons, but a small amount of glue is perfect. So we've just stuck on our two front ones, the big ones. So you're just making the quiff here happen. You see. And then once that is stuck and you're sure that that's stuck really well, you're just bending these around like that, and you're going to secure them at the top. So we're only going to do a few of them, and we're going to build this up so that quiff is quite cool and big. So I changed my mind, as is the beauty of when you're prototyping, and I have just added two other short little pieces in there because I just thought that front looked a wee bit bare. Now it depends where you place your pieces. If you feel it needs a little more to fill it in, that's perfectly fine. So I have just glued these down, again a small bit of glue, and I've beveled off that edge a little bit, and then I'm just going to flip that back and attach it to the top, so it just fills in that front a wee bit. I just thought that looked a bit better than the kind of bareness that was there. So it's sitting in behind the other pieces, so it's just filling in that space. And so there is your quiffed hair, 1950s quiffed hair, looking nice and shiny. So you will receive a template just like this one, and that's the template for the base of your hair quiffs. So I've also given you like a little strip this just quiff hair size guide, and it is rough. So it doesn't matter what shape your hair is really, because you're just going to be folding it back, and as long as your edges are nice and neat, it doesn't really matter if that is like wiggly or straight or curved, because what you're going to end up with after you've cut your things is lots of curvy shapes, because your template is really curvy. So feel free to use those. Your size guide is just so that you're not in a panic trying to think how you're going to make the right sizes. So if this was your like rough size guide, just pop it down next to that, and then you could actually probably get 3 out of that if you curve quite naturally. Curve down there and then put another line there and curve it all the way to the end down there, and then you can go that direction, because just want to use up all those wee bits. I hope that makes sense. You can always reach out to me if that doesn't make sense, and I can explain that a bit better, but we just want to use up all our little bits so we're not wasting them. And yeah, so you've got some little pieces inside as well, don't forget. So the size guide is for the outside ones, so for these ones here, that doesn't matter what size they are, so just use up all your little bits and pieces.